We're going over powerful reasons to be just one color in Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. Now, let me tell you something. This is our channel without Patreon.com. And that's our channel with Patreon, because our supporters keep the lights on, literally.
And being a supporter of the channel, like one of these awesome people on screen, will mean we love you as much as we possibly can without making you uncomfortable.
We'll also love you if you go to tcgplayer.com. There's an affiliate link in the description. You can copy it. You can make it a bookmark. But every time you go there, whenever you spend money now for the whole site, whatever site-wide, you're supporting the Nitpicking Nerds while spending no additional money. Really just an amazing steal, because you're going to buy cards anyway. Let's not kid ourselves here. I know you're going to buy cards. You know you're going to buy cards. And I know you like us. So, boom.
And you might even buy some awesome cards that you get to hear about in this video. This channel, sponsored by Maraschiello.com. There will be an ad for Maraschiello somewhere in this video. Guess the timestamp right now in the description. If you get it right, you cheated. And if you don't get it right, that's just normal.
And happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today. Hashtag birthdays.
Yes, let's go. Actually, someone guessed the Maraschiello ad the other day. You said they didn't, but there was like 1 second. I'm like,
they cheated.
You're
it's very simple.
I didn't think about that.
It's very, very simple. So monocolor decks, I feel like they're some of the most underplayed, underappreciated things that you can do in Commander. But there's actually really strong incentives to be monocolor. You get a lot when you go to any given color, and we're going to talk about it. But I think people are scared of what you lose, and it's like, well, you lose access to, like, oh, I can't play as many staples, and I can't play as many combos, and there's a give and take, I think.
Yes, obviously you do lose something. Like you said, you lose like any multicolored card. Every single multicolored card you lose access to. You lose access to, basically doubling your card pool.
Sometimes colors have trouble answering permanents. So, like, if you're red or black, it's like, okay, enchantments are going to be a big problem.
Yeah, so you have to sit back and you have to realize there is something I lose. But at the same time, there is also stuff I gain, and that's what we're going to talk about right now.
It's pretty good stuff.
It is pretty good stuff. The first and foremost, the thing you gain, I think that is one of the heaviest incentives.
And most obvious.
Is the mana base. First off, your colors undeniably will be perfect almost every time. You're not going to struggle to find your colors. If you're in mono white, all you need to find is white, and you're never going to keep an opening hand that doesn't have a way to make 1, 2, or 3 white pips.
Yeah, you can play cards with high pip counts without as much worry. I mean, you can play this in most decks. Man, it's pretty perfect in Commander, but I can throw as many triple blue cards in my deck as I want, and I don't care at all. I know I'm never going to struggle with it. Also, if you're not doing that, something you can then do is pack your deck full of as many utility lands as possible, and now your mana base is worth more value than anyone else is not close, because all they're really doing is fixing mana. You're like drawing cards and like making tokens and stuff.
I think a great strength of monocard decks is even if you're doing that high utility count, let's just say you have 6, 7, 8 utility lands in your monocolored deck, you can still play the high pip cards with no cost or no struggle to cast them.
Yeah, we're talking like Archmage's Charm or Circle of Dreams Druid, or you know what, even any of the like Invoke Cycle, if those are really good for you. Obviously, there's also some really good specific lands. We're talking like Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, where it's just all of a sudden, this is the best land in your deck, and it's better than if anyone else were to play it, because guess what? You're playing mono blank.
Yeah, exactly. Nykthos is probably one of the single best payoffs to be in a monocolor, period.
You need it.
It is an insanely strong card, and it's extra good in green, where green is a permanent-based color, and it has so many ways to tutor it up. So it's like, it's on top of like being just like an amazing card. If you put it in green, it's like, oh, well, now it's an amazing card I see every game.
Yeah, another great land you get is War Room, because you're only ever paying 1 life to draw a card. I think even though certain colors are better at drawing than others, every color just plays this card, right?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. There's just, it feels like such a free roll that you just put it in any deck. I love it so much. It's extra good in red and white, obviously.
But even blue is like, we're holding up instants and stuff, and if we have nothing better to do, we'll just fire it off.
Exactly, and it's only 1 life lost on a land. That is just an awesome feeling when you go, I guess I don't have to waste my mana that I was going to use for a counterspell, but it's not, I can just draw a card.
And this is very obviously like, monocolors get to take advantage of this. 3-color decks just don't get to do this. They don't really play Nykthos. They don't really play War Room. We also get the Castle Cycle. They're all just okay, but they're usually better than like a basic land, and they all give you something. The green one just straight up is like a kind of like an Ancient Tomb for creatures, if you look at it that way. The blue one can give you some scry value. The red one, you're going wide. The white one makes some fodder. The black one, maybe every once in a while you'll draw a card.
Yeah, exactly. Every single one of these is just going to end up coming in untapped in your deck. That's going to be playing a basic land count of at least 10, like minimal 10, if not somewhere up in the 20s like these often do.
Yeah, I like all these cards, even though they're not the strongest. I like playing them.
I think they're just free rolls, and like
They are free rolls.
The black one is the worst one. I think all the other ones I'm just gonna put in because I think you can get enough value out of them that they're almost always gonna be worth it.
So moving out of the mana base, we can talk about the cards that all monocolored decks get, non-land cards. So the first one is a cycle, and it's real good. This might be some of the other best single cards in your monocolored decks. The medallions. So Sapphire Medallion says all your blue spells cost 1 less. That's almost all your spells, unless you're playing an artifact deck, in which case, don't play these. But that's almost all your spells, and if it's kind of like a must-answer threat, because they're just going to generate like 2, 3, 4 mana a turn easy.
Every single colored spell that you cast that has a generic cost of 1 or more is getting reduced. And like BZ said, if you're storming off, if you're playing multiple spells in the turn, which you will with these medallions, you start realizing this makes 1, 2, 3, 4 mana a turn sometimes, just because it can go that off, and it lets you cast so many more spells. This is one of the best ways to ramp in monocolor, period.
Oh, your Orzhov deck. You got Orzhov Signet. That's cool. My Signet just ramped me 4, and it's going to do it again next turn. I'll see you there.
In the worst case scenario is it's reducing 1 spell per turn. It's like, oh no, the worst case scenario is it's a Signet.
It's an untapped 2-mana rock that you actually already kind of don't have. We don't have that. So these cards are just amazing. Endless Atlas, I want to say this is mostly for red and white, but it is colorless card draw if you need it in a pinch. I don't know if white even needs this as much anymore, but definitely red I would consider this.
Yeah, exactly. Endless Atlas is not the best card in the world, but it's definitely a great reason if you're within monocolors.
Something to consider.
It's a good chance at card advantage. It also works pretty good if you have an artifact strategy going. You want to up your artifact count in your deck.
Yeah, Commander's Plate gives you protection from 4 out of 5 colors since you're only one color. Obviously, get your Voltron strategies, get this card in the deck, and just feel great about it. You're just taking advantage of the wording on this card.
Yeah, this card is designed to be much better in monocolored or colorless decks, and it plays so well when you're in the right color decks because it's made so that you can still enchant your thing with any of the colored stuff that you would normally play in your deck and still just get away with it. This card is way stronger than it looks and reads. Nothing is blocking your creature. You're beating through. Perfect for Voltron. Perfect for anything that says my commander is going to kill you with commander damage.
Oh, yeah. Another cycle is the Monument cycle. Not so much the blue one, but I think all the rest of them are fine. They're either going to make a creature when you cast a spell, lets you rummage, lets you drain an opponent, or gives a creature +2/+2 trample. And they all have the medallion text of your green creatures, for example, cost 1 less. So they're kind of like 3-mana rocks. They give you some pretty sweet upside.
Yeah, exactly. These are similar to the medallions, but obviously worse. They only reduce creature spells, and these are definitely more niche. You're not putting this in like medallions. Any mono blue deck you build, you're putting the medallion in most likely. Monuments, it's niche. It's like, hey, do I care about what the monument's doing? Like the white one makes tokens. Do I want tokens? Okay, the white one can go right in my mono white deck now.
Yeah, and some of them just start kind of womboing off. Like with the white one, if you have a white main line in your deck, well, you just pay white to make a 1/1 as many times as you want. And then with the black one, well, if you have Gravecrawler and a sack outlet, now you just pay 1 to just drain people over and over as many times as you want.
Yeah, exactly. The black monument is worth a couple dollars.
I have no idea why.
That always surprises me because I don't even think it's the best one.
It's okay.
It's a totally good card. I just don't think it's a $5 card.
No, I like the white one better. The last card here for generic, before we get into specific colors, is Cage Sun. I don't know if I'm the hugest fan of this, but it's definitely explosive. If you untap with it, you're probably going to win.
Yeah, exactly. This is a meta call. If you can reliably untap with Cage Sun, it's a really, really good card. If you can't, I wouldn't play the card because it is slow, it is clunky, and it is something that can just lose you. It can be a tempo black hole because you spend 6 mana, then they pay 2, 3 mana to remove it. It's oh.
Yeah, there's also the one that lets you imprint a land. We don't really ever play that one.
I don't like that card. I really don't like Extraplanar Lens.
Yeah, Extraplanar Lens is even worse, but you could play it. If you want to live dangerously, go for it.
And if you can get away with it, if your meta will give you the chance to untap with it consistently, it's a good Magic card. All right, now we're going to get a little more specific. We're going to go color by color and tell you the cards that you get that make monocolored white decks, for example, that we're starting with here, good. The first one is Archaeomancer's Map, and one of the main things is this searches up basic planes, which we will have an abundance of in our mono white deck.
Yeah, you can't really play this in 3-color decks. Anything else is just not going to get it. And sometimes 2-color decks, I don't end up with that many basics to want to justify this. So this, along with the next card, Keeper of the Accord, which also goes and fetches basic planes out of your deck, they're just going to shine even more than they already do in 2-color decks, and we're going to be able to take, like, I think, tangible advantage of how much better they are.
Yeah, specifically with Keeper of the Accord, this one really gets a huge bump because if you fall behind early game or you're playing against a ramp deck, you want to keep getting lands out of your deck, and 3-color decks will run out of planes pretty quickly. You're just not going to. You're going to have at least 10, and it's going to be tough to actually run out.
Yeah, we also have a Myria Shepherd. This is kind of a clunkier one, but it lets you just start slamming planes. If you've got planes, you get your like Savine's Reclamationing back, your Knight of the White Orchiding, whatever. Now they're just like reanimating stuff, and it can get pretty sticky for opponents.
I agree that this is a clunky card, but I think it actually is a legitimately good card.
It's a draw to mono white. Like, I look at it and I go, that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I used to think that this card was bad and slow, but recently I put it in my Angel deck, and I've seen it be played in another Angel deck, actually, and it's actually a pretty well-performing card, and I would actually consider it for any white deck just to try.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to play it and then play a fetch land, go get a thing back to your hand, and then fetch for planes, go get something into play.
Yeah. If you're in a token strategy, another great thing you get, Devotion for mono decks is obviously very high, which means the number of pips that you'll have on the battlefield. So Revelant Hoplite and Evangel of Heliod are both going to enter and give you 1/1 tokens equal to your pips to white.
Yeah, that's a lot of pips. I mean, you're going to be on board. So this is like numbers of token generation you can't get anywhere else. You can't get this outside of white. You can't pay 5 mana for like 15 tokens. And if you can also do that in mono white also. So you get everything.
Yeah, exactly. And mono white, when you make a ton of tokens, you can use some of the good sack outlets to just get huge advantage. Your
Ashnod's Altar or something?
Ashnod's Altar, your Phyrexian Altar, use those to just cast more spells and pop off. I'm sure there's infinite combos with these cards too.
Oh, yeah. And then having all these white cards in your deck means you can more reliably pitch white cards to cards like Solitude, where obviously you can do that in a 2-3 color deck, but you're going to be caught off guard without being able to do it more often, and these decks are just guaranteed. Whenever you need to cast it as an instant for free, you can.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to play Solitude in my 3-color decks too, my 2-color decks. I mean, it's a very, very good Magic card.
But it's like 0% whiff rate here.
It is, yes. It is always going to be able to have the pitch cost in your hand and never leave you with your pants down, which you might get caught with in other decks.
Yep. Defiler of Faith. It reduces your white pips and permanent spells, which is all of our permanent spells. So we're just going to be slinging out an extra amount of 1/1 soldiers. There's nothing much to even say about that one.
Yeah, I think this card's amazing with token strategy specifically. And Myria the Sky Ruin, though slow and clunky, when it gets online, if someone doesn't have removal for your land, it's so annoying. You're just getting
best thing back.
Yeah, exactly. Every single turn.
So that means we can move on to blue decks, mono blue. And the first thing I always think of is number of islands matters. So we're talking, you get really good rates on, let's start with board wipes, like Engulf the Shore, which just returns all things X toughness or less, where X is your island count. Spectral Deluge is the same thing, but only for opponents. And Scourge of Fleets is a slightly jankier version, but that also only hits opponents. But this is just like interesting rates. There's not a 4-mana evacuation. We just get to play that. There's not a like one-sided creature wipe that isn't Cyclonic Rift, which we also get to play. We get to play that. Now we get to play 2 of them. Yeah,
exactly, because blue just gets an extra buff with these Islands Matters bounce stuff. It's so strong. If you haven't played a Spectral Deluge, it feels good every single time to resolve. Everyone knows Cyclonic Rift's amazing, but one, people don't like it because it's unfun. This is the fair version. You have to jump through hoops to make it good. And when it's good, it is a great card.
And I like that the point is moot anyway. This deck can play Cyclonic Rift. We're mono blue.
Play
both.
That is very true.
I also really like the next 2 cards. Flow of Ideas is a 6-mana sorcery, draw for each island you control. And Flow of Knowledge is a 5-mana instant that draws that many, but then you discard 2 cards. I love it. They're going to be drawing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards. The later you draw them, the better they are, and the rates are better than any Mind Spring or any Blue Sun Zenith that you're going to get.
I love that these scale with the game. That's like my favorite part of them.
But not mana-wise.
Exactly. So they're always going to cost the 6 and the 5 mana, but as you get later and later into the game, they just get better and better because not only are you drawing more cards, but you'll have more mana left afterward because you'll just be later into the game. It's such a cool little thing. Like every single turn that you go by playing another island just makes these cards that much better. Next is High Tide, which is a really, really strong card because there's a lot of ways to untap your lands in blue.
Or flash it back.
Or flash it back. Yeah, that's also very strong.
This card is actually kind of unfun in the mono blue deck. It's so good.
It makes all of your islands tap for an additional blue.
Yep, and with flow of ideas and flow of knowledge and just like all these Snapcaster Mage effects, you're going to be storming off even if you're not a storm deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's what High Tide does, right? It always just storms off. Another card you get, Back to Basics. Obviously, you can play in your monocolor decks like we've been talking about, higher basic counts, especially in blue where you want a higher island count, meaning Back to Basics won't be punishing you. Now, this is a card that is not the most fun, and you don't want to be playing in a casual play group, but if your friends don't care, this card is A+.
Pretty sweet. And we talked about pitching cards to Solitude. Well, let's also pitch cards to, obviously, we got Force of Will and Force of Negation that are always great, but you can throw in like Foil now that you have more islands, and Commandeer, which specifically requires 2 blue cards, and Commandeer is real great.
Yeah, Commandeer is one of those, like, when it happens and when you get to do it, it's like,
oh my God.
Yeah, backbreaking. It's like, because imagine like something like a Ruinous Ultimatum. Your opponent thinks, I'm blowing everybody out, everyone's tapped out, and then you just steal it. And now you get blown out, you lose your spell. Sure, they 3-for-1 themselves, and then they 1,000,000-for-1 them to you because they just got their one, just kill all your cards.
Whose perspective was that from?
It was from everybody's perspective.
That was a lot to track. But you know, the Commandeer is great. Defiler of Dreams, it's the blue version of this, except now all your blue pip stuff draws you cards, and we're just going to start storming off with our High Tides and our Defiler of Dreams. And one of the better lands, I think, in blue or in Commander, it's up there. It's Mystic Sanctuary. Lets you put a spell back on top. And it turns out that's just great. And creature versions of this suck, but the spell version is awesome.
Yeah, Mystic Sanctuary is an incredible Magic card, and your consistent in your blue decks, mono blue, are just going to always have it turned on at any time.
Fetchable.
Oh, I don't know why this card is fetchable.
Yeah.
This is no reason. Just this in itself is reason enough to play fetches in your monocolored blue deck.
Yeah, it says, hey, would you like to guaranteed draw a, like, I don't even know what you call this, like a Noxious Revival every game for free? Okay, I'll do that.
And if you want to build them on a blue deck, you can't forget to use Moxfield.com to build that deck, because 100% of the time, if you're not using Moxfield, you're doing it the worst way ever, because Moxfield is the best way ever.
This is your deck without Moxfield. Look at how terrible that looks. This is your deck with Moxfield, and when you get to sort through all the pricing and the tags and creating your own custom analysis modes and checking all the math and stats and see what your deck looks like no other redacted website can.
Exactly. And never forget that how many awesome creators are on this website. The Nitpicking Nerds have every one of their decks there. Dylan to Win and Cam to Win from Play to Win are both on there with their decks individually, because they're not cool enough to share an account like me and Beezy.
Oh, yeah. Rachel Weeks, Sinestra's on there. I know Shaper's another big one. There's tons of people. They even post, there's an account that posts all the Wizard precons.
Yeah, exactly.
Go check it out.
Go check it out. Moxfield.com, the best deck building website in the world.
And now, black cards. Black, I think a lot of people know what mono black does, but we have definitely some other spicy inclusions. So let's start with like the obvious stuff. Bubbling Muck is just black High Tide, and it can be pretty nasty even though you're not in blue, with infinite card draw. And then some of the more played cards like Crypt Gas and Arcana Revenant that double up your swamp production. Those see a ton of play.
Yeah, Crypt Gas specifically is amazing. Like, that one is like just a good Magic card that you should just have in any mono black deck every single time. Like, I can see not including the Arcana Revenant because it's a little clunky. If I'm playing mono black, Crypt Gas is in. That card is real good.
Yeah, another card I've liked is Dread Presence. Whenever a swamp enters, you're either shooting something for 2 and gaining some life, or you're drawing a card and losing a life. With Urborg and Fetchlands, we were starting to really get in business, but even just once per turn, it's not that bad, especially when you can do it right away, which makes it better than like Phyrexian Arena.
Yeah, exactly. I do like this effect much more than Phyrexian, and it's versatile. So when you don't want the card draw, it's removal for some annoying threat with 2 toughness.
Yeah, but then there's turns where you're like, all right, crack my Burnished Heart, play a land, or crack my Myriad Landscape. Here we go, like.
Or my Wayfarer's Bubble. That's another one that can get you that swamp. The best payoff for mono black, well, maybe the second best, but it's ridiculously good. It's Gray Merchant of Asphodel. Drain all your opponents for your pips to black, and you gain that much life. This card is stupid good. It's played outside of just mono black because of how good it is, but it gets such a huge boost when you're actually in that mono black deck.
Yeah, it's so good that I am like, I hate this card, but I hate it because it's amazing. You should play. I actually have joined the dark side, and I'm playing it in my budget mono black deck, and it's not even a full-on devotion deck, and it's still great.
I mean, of course it is, because how can it?
It's like I got a bunch of artifact creatures, like 30, and I'm still playing Green
even when
shit.
this card triggers for 5, it is a 30-point life swing. Consider that. Like that is really what you need to consider. Is like 5, a low trigger.
This counts as 2, yeah.
Is 30 points. That's silly.
Right.
I mean, I guess think about this. With 0 board, just Gary is a 12-point life swing. That's absurd.
Big numbers.
That took nothing.
Big numbers. Let's go to the Black Swords to Plowshares hashtag clickbait. It's Defile. As long as you have like 4+ swamps, this is going to mostly just kill something. And it does get around indestructible. I don't love it because there's a lot of free spells in black that still just get rid of things like Deadly Relic and Snuff Out, and even Lethal Scheme is close. And now that we have Overwhelming Remorse or whatever that card is, that's also basically just 1 mana. Well, here's another version of that pays you off that only mono black decks can really use.
I think specifically this one is real good if you're on a tight budget.
Yeah, because it's like 4 cents.
This card costs absolutely nothing to put in deck. Like even Lethal Schemes, like it's a couple bucks, like it's $2 or $3. Like that is a good chunk of change, especially if you're building a deck. You don't want all your cards to cost that because you might be on like a $50 budget. Defile will definitely fit there.
Yeah, these next 2 cards are pretty cool. They're not for every mono black deck, but they can do some big punchies. It's Lash Wraith and Nightmare Lash to the same card, but one of them's got Living Weapon, and they just give +X/+X, where X is your swamp count, and they equip for free if you want to pay some life. So you can throw down some commander damage or just get big lifelink swings or what have you, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm on the commander damage train with these. If your commander can consistently sneak through, get in the hits, these will end the game real quick.
It's like, oh, +8/+8 for 4 mana, and it's a permanent. Like, it's not an aura. If your commander dies, it's still there.
Oh, look, another unfun card. Like, just like Blue had, Black gets its version of Back to Basics, and it is Contamination. Silly card. All lands tap for just black mana. 0
fun, but you're going to annihilate people if there's no hold barred. Get this in your black deck.
This card is amazing. It's every time I see it, it's so good. I hate it. I hate seeing it. But that said, it is miserable. Make sure your friends don't care because they'll be miserable. I know I've played against this card and I've just been like, yep, I can't do anything.
Yep. Who wants to quit?
Me.
Crick. Son of Yawgmoth makes your black pips 1 less. It's almost like because the black Defiler kind of sucks, but this is like, no, here you go. And then you can just play any number of black costs at all on any type of card with 2 life. And he's got lifelink and he grows even bigger. This card's sweet.
I like calling Crick. Crick, there is no black Defiler.
This is Crick.
Crick is the part of the cycle because the black Defiler is such butts.
I don't know. They really just like, I mean, I know it's designed for not commander, but
it's so dumb because just compare it to all the other ones. Like, I'm not even saying the red one's good, but
green, blue, and white are amazing.
Green, blue, and white are amazing. Red is at least a playable Magic card, still one of the worst ones. And then this black one is just
menace. Wow.
It's silly bad. It doesn't even do it to your whole team. The green one puts counters on your whole team. This one gives 1 creature +1/+1 menace. What is that? That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
So Crick is amazing. And then you were waiting for this. You were actually typing in the comments right now, where's Cabal Coffers? It's right here. This is like the biggest draw. You build your entire friggin' mana base around this, and you go tutor it every single game, because guess what? Black is really good at finding cards, and you play Cabal Coffers, and you play Cabal Stronghold, and you bring that Nykthos from earlier, and you can also play Mages of the Coffers, but I'm less high on that.
It's a budget one, right? Like, the Cabal Coffers and the Cabal Stronghold are both strong. If you're playing Mono Black, I would suggest playing both of these.
Yeah, you have to... If you know somebody who just like has this and they're going to spam these lands, you have to just kill them before they can do it.
Yeah, or you have to make sure that you actually pack answers like your Beast Withins and your Generous Gifts.
Demolition Field, that new land?
Demolition Field, Strip Mine. Make sure you have something to answer these lands because they can run away at the game so fast.
Well, let's run away to red cards, Cherries.
Oh, right into the fun section, you mean?
The very fun section.
Because now we have another version of the same thing we've been talking about. This time it's Blood Moon, and it just makes all non-basic lands in the mountains. Guess what? We're either all mountains or we don't care if all of our lands are mountains because we're a mono red deck.
We're all mountains or we're about to be all mountains, and we're not going to care either way. Mages of the Moon is the same thing, but it's a creature, so it's easier to kill. But certain decks cannot function while these are in play, and we don't even notice. We go, oh yeah, there's Blood Moon. I forgot I cast that card.
Yeah, exactly. We just get to execute our game plan and run away with the game while everyone else goes, I have to answer that to even play the game. Again, don't just throw these in your deck. Make sure your play group doesn't care. It's super important to Rule 0 talk.
Yes. Another pretty big draw that I like to mono red is Fanatic of Mogus. It's like the fair Grey Merchant where it still blasts each opponent for your red devotion. You just don't gain that much life. This card is sweet if you can flicker it or bring it back somehow, but I just like this card.
You don't gain that much life. You don't gain any.
You don't gain that much life.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that makes it sound like you said you don't gain that much.
Life.
You don't get that much.
Usually you gain 0, but you could give it lifelink.
Yeah, that's
then
good.
You build your own Gary.
That one was really funny. Yeah, like you said it correctly, but it's
only
just,
according to like card text.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, only according to card text.
It's a good card.
It is a very, very good card. The mana base thing, I want to mention this one because this one's super important. Valakut is like one of the biggest draws to mono red, period, because you just get to build a mana base that starts after you get a certain point, you get enough mountains out. Every single land is a lightning bolt, meaning you can kill players with this. You'll just keep creatures off the battlefield, especially if they're small.
All utility creatures are doomed unless this Valakut is answered. And you know we're playing Vesuva, and you know we're playing Gamble and Expedition Map, and maybe if there's some other tutor, which I don't think there is. That's pretty much what we're doing. That's like plan A is like, let's get Valakut out and then play Magic, and we get to basically cast twice as many spells as everybody else because we're just throwing bolts around. And I also, if you want to go Mountains Matter, some of the better versions of that are Spawn of Thraxes, which just throws X damage at a target where X is your mountain count. So it's like a 5/5 flyer, take 10 damage. That's pretty big. And then Firecat Blitz, if you got like an overrun effect, this is game over because you're just going to spend all your mana, make that many cats, sack all your lands, make that many cats again, and then overrun and win.
Yeah, Firecat Blitz is a weird card.
It's so weird. Let's hop on over to mono green decks. What do they get? Well, the first one I like is Gaia's Touch. It's exploration, but only for forests. And guess what? We got forests.
Why did you ask it like a question like you were going to throw it to me, but then you answered it yourself?
Gotcha.
Gaia's Touch is really, really cool. I agree, especially on a budget where you can't play Exploration because Exploration is like $30, $40. It's a very expensive card. Gaia's Touch is a great budget version or just an extra version of it.
And I like that when you don't need it, you just sack it for green and get even more value out of it. I think mono green decks especially are just going to be like cascading lands. You're not going to be able to keep up with your eyeballs.
Yeah,
how many lands they're going to play.
You're right. Your eyeballs won't have a wide enough view. You'll have to use your peripheral vision just to see all their lands.
I was thinking like a snake bite is too fast for the human eye. The mono green ramp players' land deployment is too fast for the human eye.
Yeah, that's true. We also have Arbor Elf, which untaps our forest. But we can equip our forest with things like Utopia Sprawl.
I'll equip my forest.
I guess it's enchant.
Equipped forest has.
You can enchant your forest with Utopia Sprawl, which is specifically for forest, but also there's a million of these. There's Wild Growth, there's Overgrowth. There's a million of these, and Arbor Elf works extremely well with all of them.
Yeah, and Utopia Sprawl, obviously Wild Growth sees a lot of play, but Utopia Sprawl is a little bit harder to slot in. Not for mono green. We just get to take all the extra value and have our ramp be slightly faster than everybody else because we already got all the mana dorks. But now we got an extra little aura that not everybody gets to play. We also have the new Titania Nature's Force, which says when forests enter, you just get 5/3. So that's kind of like a Valakut variant or a Field of the Dead variant, except 5/3.
She also lets you play forest from your graveyard. Now you're going to say, how are they going to get in the graveyard? But she mills when those elementals die, so she'll mill over, and any land you hit is most likely a forest, so you're going to be able to just play it with her.
Yeah, here's some secret tech for you. A lot of mono green decks are still playing Cultivate Kodama's Reach, which is fine, but Nissa's Pilgrimage is actually just strictly better than those cards in mono green because it's the same exact card. You're going to get a forest, except sometimes you get an extra forest, and it's just better. So, like, it's not Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, it's Cultivate and Nissa's Pilgrimage now.
Yeah, exactly. Nissa's Pilgrimage is super solid. Only in mono green. Avoid it outside of mono green, but in mono green, thumbs up.
It's funny that it's just great, and it's just better than staples.
Remember when I was talking about how good the green Defiler is? It might be the best Defiler we have, period, because...
Yeah, I don't think it's that close. I think it is.
Yeah, it's so silly good. You just, again, Defiler text, you're reducing your green things can pay 2 life instead of a pip, and then every green permanent spell, guess what? +1/+1 counter on my entire team. It's so silly.
And the green decks get to play the most single green pip cards like Utopia Sprawl and Arbor Elf and every 87 variants of that, Gaia's Touch Exploration, that we're just going to start slinging like 3. We could play this on turn 5 and then play 3 spells after it.
Every card except Nissa's Pilgrimage that we've mentioned so far is just a green permanent spell because green really strives with permanents. Oh, speaking of 1 mana pipped permanents, Allosaurus Shepherd. Now, I want to say specifically, this card is good, but make sure you're in a meta where it matters because
higher power.
Yeah, higher power. I'm not going to just throw this in any mono green deck. I will throw it in any mono green deck, playing against lots and lots of counter spells.
Yeah, or if you have combos and stuff and you want to protect them, because our whole deck is green. Our whole deck can't be countered. That's pretty sweet. I want to also add Nissa, who shakes the world. Not everybody likes this card. We're not as big on it as other people, but some people who want to double their forest production, are going to be pretty thrilled with it.
And like blue cards, we get awesome pitch cards here. Endurance, absolutely love Endurance. This card is awesome. It is graveyard hate. It can be free, or it can just be a 3/4 flash that can jump in, block, and still hate out a graveyard. And Force of Vigor, which is just pitch a green card, get a 2 for 2, and destroy an artifact and an enchantment, or an artifact and an artifact, or an enchantment and an enchantment. Pick any one you want.
Or an artifact without a second target.
Oh,
Let's keep going.
You can just do whatever you want with this card.
Yeah, Natural Order is another one that maybe doesn't look as much at first, but it requires a green sacrifice and goes and fetches a green creature. So I don't really know if there's a mono green deck that doesn't just want Natural Order. Do you have big fatties? Probably. Why are you playing mono green if you don't?
Yeah, that's very, very true. Natural Order is a great card outside of mono green, but like you said, in mono green,
guaranteed.
It says sack any creature, get any creature, and that's really, really strong. And Karamitra's Acolyte, this card is slightly underrated, I think. I think that it's somewhere in between like a really good card and an okay card. But people, I think, have it on like the side. I'm a little higher on it. I think it is clunky. It is a slow mana dork.
But it's explosive.
It's so explosive. If you untap with it in the mid game, sometimes it's a tap for 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. It's like it's a Nykthos on a creature, but also you don't have to put any mana into it. It just taps to do it.
And green is both good at untapping lands, Nykthoses, and creatures with Karamitra's Acolyte, so it could be super, super sweet in that deck. And I think there's just so many draws to every single mono color that my specific challenge to you, the viewer, is go out there and build a monocolor deck and check out all the awesome things that it brings that no other color combination can bring.
And if you like the Nitpicking Nerds, check out this video, which is 5 cards you're missing out on. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.